Okay, that should be
Have you seen the Drink '01 Dreamcatcher NFA document as published on the website within the last 8 hours?
titled Web Liquidity Pooling. Sorry.
No, the Dreamcatcher one, the one you made.
Well, yeah, has that changed? I did some edits. Oh,
Yep,
you've
yep.
added graphics.
I've read your edits.
All right.
I have added graphics. Now this this might
Why?
not. I mean, I think this is revolutionary. Okay, but it might look a bit.
Okay. What's the other than the graphics? What's the diffs?
Is it
So no, I haven't. Basically, I haven't seen that since this morning. So
okay? So here, did you manage to read the document Web Liquidity Pooling?
yes, I did with great interest.
Okay, so it's
It's
a
pretty
graphic.
tight. Actually, it's
Right?
pretty tight as an idea goes.
Reasonably tight, right? So
Yeah.
I've been going mental running around trying to figure out like where is the security and what is the security and how does that relate to us and um, so as far as I got is that I'm pretty sure that we can sell inversion tokens,
Hmm.
and so long as we launch with voting capability and that people are fully eyes wide open, they have to individually say, I want this particular Ford NFA to be made, and putting in this much money.
Hmm.
That satisfies the participation prong of the Howey test because it's no longer solely on the efforts of others. They are participating in the creation of the thing.
My ignorance. What's the Howey test?
You need to know what the Howey test is.
I
The
haven't never
Howey
heard of
test
the
is
Howey test. I might have been under a
it's from
different
a
title.
case.
Sorry.
It's basically the founding test for the entire SEC in the US, like where they start, and that their sort of published statement is any investment of money in a common enterprise with a reasonable expectation of profit that is solely dependent on a third party
Right.
or something pretty
All
close
right.
to that.
Okay. All right. So right. Yeah.
And it's such a great definition that it captures like you can't really wiggle out of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because it's there to catch security scams where people are like, here's this item, call it a share. It's literally worth nothing. I just wrote down a number on a piece of paper. If you give me your money, it will give you rights to more money than you put in later. And it catches that scam.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
that's the essence of Wolf of Wall Street, the stock market crash, like those are security scammers.
Bernie. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, so we're in a weird position insofar as we have a technology that can, so we say, open up the transparency of what's happening inside the company versus what's happening outside. But who the fuck are we, right? So that test is there that's basically the US government saying we're going to look after our citizens in this way. Now, it's been abused in many ways, and it's largely been used to lock common people out of investment opportunities.
Yep.
Honestly, I say for their own safety.
Well, given how much scamming goes on, I think they're probably better off out of it, to be honest.
Yeah. But the Howey test, and I will send you a beautiful document that was published by the SEC itself that sort of expands on the Howey test and relates it directly to cryptocurrencies. If we sell inversion tokens and say they're one-to-one with USD, they don't appreciate whatsoever. So there's no inflationary mechanics built into the token that would cause you to expect profit from buying that thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we say that these liquidity pools that are used to, first of all, we proposition a forward NFA that has passed QA that we say we want to make this thing. You have to actively take your money from the pool. Like, first of all, you got to have put it in the pool anyway, and then you got to select that thing and say, I want it, and I want it to the tune of this much money.
So effectively what you're doing is you're just changing the denomination of the currency you're using, and you're buying services with the expectation of output, but not the expectation of appreciation.
Yeah, and you're participating in the construction of the things that are in the future, the enterprise, or the things that are being built. You're participating in it. You're not just the sideliner that just handed over your cash. Now, in the case of some of the investors, the conventional investors that we have lined up, we would form a company and give them securities guarantees because, they're big enough to be accredited investors. We form the company, and then the company buys effectively the DAO tokens. I don't like calling it that because it's much freer than a traditional DAO is much more constrained. Mm-hmm. We're saying that actually, after talking to Pacifist, I kind of got the idea that because every inversion token transaction is also a vote on anything, then you could look at anyone using inversion tokens as a member of the inversion DAO. It's just super loose. Like, anyone can join and you can vote on anything. It doesn't have to be an official vote. Mm-hmm. You just vote on anything all the time.
Are you seeing those votes weighted by holding or by membership? So does it give me
weighted by data? They're weighted by data. So it's entirely dependent on who's interpreting the vote as to as to how they get interpreted. But it sort of seems like there's two classes of vote that happen with an inversion token. One is the open voting, where you specify what the vote is and how much you vote for it. Mm-hmm. And the second one is like a hard or conditional vote, where you're saying, I'm not releasing these funds until this condition is met. So that's more like a conditional payment vote as opposed to a expression of opinion or preference, signaling of preference.
That makes sense. And so to rewind about 3 minutes, what you're saying with the companies, effectively, this is a well-trodden path, isn't it? The investors are electing agents to work on their behalf. And it's those agents that are going out and making decisions because they don't have the skill or, can't be arsed, whatever. But they are
keeping those agents in check that the SEC rules are about.
Yeah.
And primarily the SEC states it's about reducing the information asymmetry between those inside the company and those investing outside. And it says those exact words, reducing the information asymmetry.
That's interesting, because we've been talking about information gradients for a while. That's very interesting.
That's what they're there to level. And so during the creation phase, which is to say where we want to take in money, perform some work, and give back an asset, whereby that asset may have a royalty stream attached to it by virtue of ambient attribution.
Or may not. It may be completely useless. Yeah, but nobody can tell.
But the thing is, like, I tried to dance around that. It's the promise of a royalty that's a dangerous thing. Mm. So I kept trying to dance around it because I'm like, ambient attribution is sort of special in that you need it to be widespread, decentralized when it happens, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, because you're making free software, there's no guarantee, there's no leverage and all that. All of that is snake oil in a way to try and slippery slope your way out of something that's unavoidable, which is you need some money to build something that's not made, because when you make it, it'll be valuable to everyone who contributed. And for us to try and suppress that in any way is sort of, it's first of all, it's lying, because we believe it'll be extremely valuable. And second of all, it's a difficult argument to make. Anyway.
I disagree, but only partially. The system is disinterested about whether you make money off owning this asset that you've given a forward NFA and someone's produced. So, for example, you could ask someone to. I don't know if you get them in New Zealand, but Scotland's covered in them. Follies. It's like, yeah, I would like you to make me a Greek temple on the top of Calton Hill. Thank you very much. It's like, okay, well, that's fine.
No, it's not. It's different. It's different because there was no royalty stream promised from the folly. We are talking about a royalty stream that makes it a security. If
oh yeah, okay. Yeah, but at the time
okay,
of
now
making,
I've been wiggling around with this thing for a while.
okay, all
Okay.
right, all right,
Yes, you could argue it one way or another, but the mere fact that we can have an argument says that it's not clear cut.
and
And
we'll be putting a yeah, we'll be putting a bucket that is not of our choosing. Yeah,
yeah, and what I'm trying to say is that we should accept that and be like, we are trying to make ambient attribution. It is a royalty stream to you, and we have these highly defined specs that we want to build. We need some money for, but the way we get around the how we test is participation, and that's that that's that DAO voting thing, because participation. I mean, nobody can claim that we hoodwinked them because they had to know what was happening and they had to buy into this thing. They could also exit at any time. They had a cool down period. Like, I think we've done beyond our duty to make sure that the naive or the people looking for us to save their financial ruin are not involved. And the way we do that is by KYCing everyone to keep out the scammers,
yep,
DPLing everyone so that everyone has to behave well,
yep,
and putting in time locks, because naive, greedy people, or people who are suckers, are impatient.
mm,
So if you're like, well, look, it's you got to wait for a month. Like, we just, I
right,
just want to go above and beyond for protecting or embellishing the spirit of the SEC in everything we do.
yeah,
Because we are making some promises, and we want to actually do right by the people that invest in us.
yeah, yeah,
So whilst there is speculative construction going on, the way to avoid the problem is with the participation prong of the Howey test being avoided, because they were participating.
right,
Once the thing is built, being able to trade it. I mean, if we just basically lock, you can't trade these things while you're in DAO mode. I mean, you can, but only to other DAO members. So it's as though they just started in there anyway. But once it's built and an NFA is minted, I believe you can trade it because, yes, there is a royalty attached. There's no common enterprise from the seller of the token. Like, it's been built, it's been done, it's finished. That's it. Nothing further is to be done.
yeah,
It also has it's not solely dependent on one party to generate a profit for you from it. So I think it passes the Howey test once it's built because it's a finished, fixed thing that may have a royalty, where that royalty comes from efforts other than the person selling it.
yeah. That makes sense. This sounds a lot like a cooperative.
Yeah,
In the DAO
maybe.
mode.
Maybe. But the key attribute that I wanted to talk to you about today was the pictures. Now,
Really? Okay. I mean, it looks like a
yeah,
pretty nice tat, but I'm not sure it is. Is that a tat?
so what I've done is I found an AI art generator, and I seeded it with the task title. And so what I intend to do is, when you make a Ford NFA, it auto-generates this art, and it becomes an NFT that you can look in your wallet, and you have all these different colorful,
I
pretty
saw
things where
that.
you can associate.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, I saw your reference that there's logos which are persistent further down in the dock.
I'm not sure which part you mean. Um,
Uh,
yeah. So that
yep.
basically, when you make the task, it makes this image, and the whole point of the Dreamcatcher is to thingify contributions.
Mm-hmm.
And so, for example, a software release, version 0.24.19, can be thingified into a token with a picture that you can all sort of rally round. You can trade it. You can see it in your wallet. Like you can have it as a collection, like a trading card. It gives people who don't know software something to bite hold of, and something for the devs to bite hold of as well. So it's sort of like we're all talking about this thing, whereas specs for software are notoriously drifty.
Mm.
And right, making the Ford NFAs into things like tokens with a picture that hold all the information about who did what where. And then when it gets completed, you sort of turn the icon from being a grayed out pie chart showing the completion rate to a full blown, like, this is an actual legit finished token. In the software world, this is one of the most prized possessions you can have. It is finished, tested, QA passed code, and the contribution is represented in this art form, a token that you can trade, that you own a percentage of, that you can trade and sell anytime you like.
I can't figure out whether that's a stupid idea or genius.
Because it looks fucking cool.
It
If you
does look
put that all
cool.
together and you have this whole fucking collectible card stack of cool looking icons, and you know the sweat that went into attaining some of them, and some of them you paid tens of thousands of dollars for, and some of them got torn, they didn't finish, and they're stuck on halfway, and you're like, this one could have been the one, man, but it's not. And then most of all, if you look at your collection of all these tokens, and some of them are showing you yield, like royalties flowing in,
Oh,
right?
right. Which is your reference to gamification. Right.
Now you're like, oh my
Yeah.
God, I want these things, right? So if you make it with that icon and you put it out away from me, I want it, right? I want it more than I want a spec. When I look at a spec, I don't get a hard on. No one does. No one does.
Because
No
it
one
takes
wants
too
it.
long. It
In
takes
fact,
too long.
even the guys that need it, kind of like, it's sort of like toilet paper. You
Yeah.
need it, but you sort of would rather not think about it too much,
Well,
right?
you kind of need it,
But
but you hate it. I mean,
yeah,
everyone hates
but when it's
specs.
this thing, and you put it out there and you're like, do you want this? And I'm like, I, fuck, man, I really want that. Like, I want it. And when you get it, you can treasure it, you can hold it. It gives it a metaphor for which you can hold on to something that's usually fucking ephemeral.
I think that could be quite a neat idea. I think that will need to. I need to think about that in terms of
How else?
it's great. I think it's a great idea for retail, but we're not aiming at retail. We're aiming at sophisticated to start with. And
Dude, it's better for everyone. It's better for sophisticated, for retail, for everyone. Because, like, look at the contributions, just selfishly, look at the contributions I've made.
yeah,
I've got nothing to show for it. When I went to university and blew $50,000 of loaned money that I won't pay back on principal from the New Zealand government, when
probably shouldn't have said
I will pay it back. I just don't. Yeah.
For example,
Didn't mean to say
oh,
that. For example, I will pay it back. It's just the interest is so low that who's in a hurry?
yeah,
My bad. Forget that. The point is, at least I got a fucking t-shirt, and I goddamn love that t-shirt. I love that t-shirt. That
right.
was my $50,000 t-shirt.
You
Okay,
know,
all the
weirdly,
contributions.
sorry, go on.
Where is my t-shirt from the Dreamcatcher? Right?
Hmm.
I've got nothing. I've put in hundreds, thousands, possibly millions of dollars, and I've got nothing. But if I had a bunch
You'd
of
have a
NFAs,
stack. You'd be, the biggest stack in the playground.
right? Each
Yeah.
one would have a story. Each one would have a story. Each one would be worth something different. Okay, they'd have a timeline. You can think of these things as like a snapshot of the organization of resources at the time that contributed to it. A lot of those NFAs you and I would share. We'd have part of them each,
Yeah. Is there anything
right? But we'd have something.
is there anything encoded in that image, or how's that image generated then?
That's in who knows, AI magic.
No, I
I
mean,
guess.
just I'm just curious. I'll go back. I'll go around and have a look at it because it's
Right.
very interesting. Um,
We can. I mean, I found some libraries that will let us encode the chain ID into the image so that we can sort of like tightly bond it to the chain, so that even if you copied it byte for byte, you'd also be copying the chain.
and
Either way, it doesn't matter.
can you extract the chain ID from the image?
Yeah.
All right. Okay. All right. I think it's leaning towards genius away from stupid.
Well, because it like we're trying to make contribution go from a series of events to a collection of things. That's actually one way to look at what the Dreamcatcher is all about. Recognizing through the encapsulation into objects the events that go into contributing to make something real.
Right.
And so by all I've really done is said, okay, these objects, sure, we're going to make them, but let's just put a fucking pretty picture on them
Right.
and
I just
right,
give
and make them more holdable, more collectible,
yes. Yeah.
rather than like Dreamcatcher version 0.5.
Exactly. And more than that, it's the slice
0.9.
through the chains at that particular point in time, which
It's a
that's
snapshot,
pretty dry.
yeah.
That's pretty dry, isn't it?
But it's a snapshot of everything, the blood, sweat, tears, yelling, crying, everything that went into getting that thing across the line. A completed task in software development is surely the most valuable thing in software development.
Yeah.
Surely,
Nice.
right? Like,
Nice.
oftentimes the fucking task changes. And so,
Okay. Yes, I love the structure. It's really starting to grow on me, the picture thing. I love the structure, what you've done here.
can you give me just 1 second? I just need to check if I need to bail or not.
Yeah.
Be right back.
No worries.
Okay, now we're good.
Yeah, cool.
And so, yeah, that liquidity pooling idea that Pacifist said, I know you and I were very scared of it because of the way that, we didn't want to be afoul of securities laws. But, I mean, he basically said to me, look, if you're a Web3 project and if people don't have a way to put in assets to be part of the project, they think we were stupid.
That is true, but we're the only part that I'm wary of is what me saying. Someone, if we were to hand this to, a 65-year-old lawyer, company law, and say which bucket we're going to
It
be
wouldn't
in.
happen. There's first of all, we need to be settled with it ourselves.
Yeah.
I'm feeling pretty settled with it. I'll give it some time, but I'm feeling pretty settled with it, and I want to write up precisely the securities arguments and risks. But moreover, those security laws, there's a massive bull rush on at the moment, right? Like bull rush sucks when you're the last runner and everyone else is in the middle trying to get you, right? But when you're the first runner or the SEC with a limited budget and there's literally hundreds of thousands of runners and you're trying to prioritize who you're going to take down, first of all, people need to complain, right? So if we're actually earnest, honest, and well beyond what the security laws require anyway, they ain't going to come for us. Second of all, like people you gotta piss someone off. Like
No, we just do that
someone
by
has to have
habit.
some. No, but about like I was an investor and these guys said one thing and did the other. So I think there's some safety to be taken there. We also, if you stay small, it's also not worth that. Like we're not asking for tens of millions of dollars, right? We're barely asking for 1 million. And so that's pretty low down on the radar. I mean, that's the amount of a half decent rug pull scam, right? Like an actual theft. Like we're actually here trying to do something and we insist on this participation from people. So we're like, you can't just not participate.
I think that'd be okay. Essentially, we're saying let's quack like a duck until someone asks me, what kind of animal are you?
Yeah.
It would. What am I nervous about? I think we still need to earth it in saying this is not an exact fit, but the closest existing vehicle structure is X, whether that's a limited company, whether it's a co-op or whatever.
The closest structure is a limited liability private company that sells shares for money, where the management of that company take care of that money to produce finished NFAs that receive a royalty later.
Right, but that's only for the first mover at the DAO where we're acting as agents. In steady state, what's the closest entity?
But I don't know. I'll leave that up to you. But once we have this mechanism in place, we can use it to put a pool up to figure out what we are.
No, that's fair enough. I don't think early days will come a cropper of anything.
No, right, and we've spent so long trying to figure out the complete game, whereas I think what I've listed is like 14 actions that you need to be able to do with this system, and those 14 actions allow us to not be caught by the Howey test because we're requiring participation, gain funding to do something that's a venture, and make a sort of a system that people like, and we can use that to build out more features in the system.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like, I think this is the minimum dream catcher, which has been a question that's long eluded us.
Yes. Okay. So what's the best next step then? What are you asking me to do? What I could do, for example, is go through with a fine tooth comb the liquidity pooling doc and marry it up to the NFA for Dreamcatcher, because those two certainly should be able to map backwards and forwards. If not, one of them's wrong. That might be a thing to do.
No, I disagree. What you're describing is the fully functional Dreamcatcher. This is going to fall short on some points, except it does allow the introduction of capital in a way that you could technically use it for any project, not just Dreamcatcher Core. Right, which is one critical part of it. So it's a part of the Dreamcatcher NFA. It's not the whole thing. That's for damn sure.
Yes, no, that's right, and I agree with that. I'm saying the two need to marry up. There can't be any contradiction between the two, or there shouldn't.
Oh yes, absolutely, absolutely, yep. Totally agree with that.
And there may well be, because if you've basically shot a tracer bullet through this topic, what I'm expecting is there's some things that I've missed in the Dreamcatcher NFA that need to be added
Mm.
in order to make it
Yeah,
congruent.
maybe. But yeah, I mean, look, I mean, that Dreamcatcher NFA looks more desirable to me with that artwork in it, even in its shitty form, than
No,
just
I
looking at the text,
the artwork is really growing on me actually. It's
right?
I don't know what the generator, but it looks quite I don't know, kind of cyberpunky manga kind of thing.
There's a whole lot of different parameters that you can do. I arranged for API access, so we'll be able to just, generate them by default.
Yeah,
But you can have a sort of a play around with what you like in terms of a style or a theme. And I think that each pool admin should be free to set their top level theme parameters for their image generator
kind
so
of
that
cool.
all their NFAs, the NFAs that get generated in their pool have the same look. So they look like a collection.
Yeah, it's kind of cool, isn't it? It is actually kind of cool.
Yeah, because if you see the words, I think it's the leftmost word counts most. But if you see the words, like I seeded each one of those images with Dreamcatcher, and so it started with Dreamcatcher dispersal of funds, Dreamcatcher assessment of financial contributions, and that's how it made the art.
Yeah,
So that's why they all sort of look like a Dreamcatcher.
yeah. That's
But if you look at the image for Ethereum Dreamcatcher Bridge, like it kind
huh,
of looks like
huh.
what I
Oh,
asked
look, you've
for.
got the kind of a Ethereum-ish kind of diamondy type thing. You got
Mhm.
bridge. You've got a sunset or
Sort of looks like a
sunrise.
Dreamcatcher,
Ah, it's quite nice, isn't it? That's what was
but
the name?
now
What
it's
was the name
like
of the thing again? What was the name of the service?
hotpot.ai.
Hot, hot. Okay. I'll
Yeah, and
probably
so you
mess around with
basically
it.
it costs about 70 cents per image to generate,
That's all right, isn't it?
but well, I mean, fuck, man, it's personalized, unique, and every so often, particularly if we define strict rules on what generates the images,
Hmm.
every so often there'll be a really cool picture will show up, and we're like, oh, that's somehow better than this other mundane task.
And then the confluence of a really cool picture and a really good royalty rate.
Makes them highly desirable, right? Highly desirable.
Yeah.
And so you can sort of, as a trader of NFAs, you would find attachment to certain ones. Some would be better than others. Some would you'd like, oh, this was when Mr. Maxwell was sort of in his prime, and this was, blah blah blah, and this one here was
Oh,
when
I'm
they couldn't
still in my
agree
prime.
on.
Oh, you mean in the future? All right, okay. Okay, good. Right, I'm aware of your time. Um, in terms of work to be done, um, so I did a commit last night. Sorry, are we done on the liquidity pooling? I'm very happy with that. I'm going to let it settle as well in my head, read it a few more times. But
Yeah.
I agree with what you're saying.
I'm really sorry. I gotta run.
Yeah,
I
no
gotta
worries.
run. I
And
just
yeah,
ripped through the web liquidity doc, kicked the shit out of it,
yeah, I'll do that.
ask me questions, whatever, and
Yeah,
then I'll get back to you.
that's cool. On your stage or on your side, async over Discord. If you could have a look at the first stage gates, it's more.
I took a look at this.
Are you well? Yeah, you got to go. Async any comments across.
Okay.
Yep.
Couldn't see anything wrong with it.
All right.
Um, yeah.
Yep. Cool. Okay. It was just before going on and doing the rest in the similar kind of way.
Yeah, well, let's think about how they can be turned into tokens that are collectible.
Yeah. Well, each stage gate should by itself be a collection of effort that's passed and
If they,
therefore generates
if they,
an NFA asset.
yeah,
So we're talking about cards there, I guess.
pretty much. Okay, I better run, man.
Yeah, yeah. Go for it. Go for it, man.
Okay, good to hear from you again. I'm glad you got
And
over the
yourself.
illness.
I'm back. Very glad to be back. Right.